Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Convergence podcast. The Convergence is a space designed for post-secondary students and young adults to explore and deepen their faith. It's a space to think, question, doubt, and ultimately to worship. We are so glad that you're here. Today, we will listen to a message from Mark Buchanan, a pastor, author, and an associate professor of Pastoral Theology at Ambrose University. He'll be speaking on our identities as God-bearers or Christ in us. Mark, the floor is yours.
Well, hello. I came to faith at 21, and I was saying to Kelly, I just love speaking to people your age. Because something happened in me at 21 where there was, well, really what I want to talk about tonight, my heart opened. It became hospitable to the God who wanted to come in. You ever thought that really coming to faith is your heart becoming hospitable to the God of heaven and earth who actually says, I'd like to make my home in you. Extraordinary that of all the religions in the world, Christianity alone has that radical idea of the God who says, hello, can I come in? Got to come to your house today. So at 21, that happened for me. And when on a beautiful sunny day by the Bow River in September, Kelly and Logan and I met to discuss being here tonight, I already in my heart said, I want to do this because, again, I came to faith in my 20s while I was in University of British Columbia, and everything changed. It really did. That was over 40 years ago. So I'm pushing. I would not trade my worst day of being a Christ follower for my best day of being a pagan. I've had some rough days as a Christ follower. But if some deal was offered, you take your happiest, most gladsome, winning on all fronts day before you knew Christ, and you can have that forever. But you can't know Christ, or you can have this life of sometimes struggle and disappointment. But you knew Christ. I wouldn't trade. I'd take Christ. And that's a witness of somebody a lot older than you are. The English language is the most really promiscuous language on the planet. We just kind of we'll steal anybody's words, and I forget the insane amount of words we have in our vocabulary, but it surpasses every other language by the order of something, because we just plunder. We go out a plundering. So you speak Inuit, we'll take some of your words. You speak Sanskrit, we'll take your words. We've taken a lot of Greek words. Eros is a Greek word that is a foundation of our word erotic. It's actually not so much about sexual love, but about kind of human love. But whenever you say the word erotic, you're saying a Greek word fundamentally. Or charos. When you say charismatic, that person has a charismatic personality. Or they go to a charismatic church. It's a Greek word. Charis is a root for grace or gift or sometimes joy. A lot of Greek words got into the English language, but this one never did. Theotokos. That nobody, does anyone know? Well, I guess I've got the translation there. So, gave it away. I don't hear anybody, even I teach at a seminary, at Ambrose Seminary, I don't hear anybody walking around using this word. It was a big word in the Greek Orthodox Church, Theotokos, because it means literally God-bearer. But it became the name for Mary and became the Christ bearer. And if you ever go to, especially Greece, but virtually any country where the dominant form of Christianity is orthodoxy, you will find icons depicting many, heroes of the faith, including Paul and Peter, and certainly lots of Jesus. But one of the favorite themes in especially Greek Orthodoxy is the Theotokos, Mary, the Christ bearer. And you've got some. I picked some of the more classic ones, and then this is really a modern icon working in the conventions of iconography. And this is one that's much more modern, that eliminates some of those more standard elements of the icon. But this is a dearly, dearly loved theme, depiction, Mary, the Christ bearer. I'm going to read the story when the angel of the Lord appears one day to this 14-year-old girl and asks her, would you do this? Would you take on this strange, beautiful, life-altering in every way? You're 14 and you're unmarried. God's saying, would you let me interrupt you for all the rest of your days, because a sword will pierce your heart too, is what she's told. And Logan, you've just brought this. I just forgot your son's name. I was Esmond. Oh gosh, do you not feel the weight? The responsibility, you would do anything. You would give anything. You've already given up a whole bunch of stuff like sleep. And count it all joy. And you already know this, but here's a report from somebody whose children are all in their 30s. You never stop carrying them. You just never do. You wake up thinking. You go to bed thinking. Your whole day is woven with this longing and this prayer and this hope and this dream and this fear, actually. I'm sorry, it just never goes away. And Mary at 14, not even married, and she gets told by the angel of the Lord, I've got a vocation, I've got a calling for you. Listen to the story fresh. It's in Luke's Gospel. It's right at the beginning, and it begins in verse 26. In the 6 months of Elizabeth's pregnant, God sent the angel Gabriel to Nazareth, to a town in Galilee, to a virgin pledged to be married to a man named Joseph, a descendant of David. The virgin's name was Mary. The angel went to her and said, "Greetings." Sorry, I just find that funny. I'm going to ruin your life. Change your greetings. You who are highly favored, the Lord is with you. Mary was greatly troubled at his words, and wondered what kind of greeting this might be. But the angel said to her, "Do not be afraid, Mary. You found favor with God. You will conceive and give birth to a son, and you are to call him Jesus. He will be great, and he will be called the Son of the Most High. The Lord God will give him the throne of his father David, and he will reign over Jacob's descendants forever. His kingdom will never end." How will this be? Mary asked. I'm a virgin. The angel answered, "The Holy Spirit will come on you, and the power of the Most High will overshadow you. So the Holy One to be born will be called the Son of God." And then jump down to verse 38, and she just says, "I am the Lord's servant." Mary answered, "May your word to me be fulfilled." Then the angel left her. This unique vocation is really extraordinary vocation. Women are more godlike than men, not just because they're usually more virtuous, but God only gave to women in the female in the human species the power to create life. I mean, men make a small contribution. There's a godlike power that he's shared out with only the female part of the species. But then he chooses to subject himself to the very thing he's sort of created. I will be born in a womb, and not just any womb, a virgin's womb. This strange and beautiful and disruptive vocation of Mary, and it's a vocation, as I already said, is lifelong. But think, I mean, the God of the universe, the God made flesh inside of her. But when the God comes out, when Jesus comes out, it's not like he's a know-it-all. I mean, there's that scene in the temple where he's a bit of a know-it-all. But he had to learn to walk. He had to learn words. He had to suckle at Mary's breast. He cried. He got scared. He had night terrors. She had to go and rub his back and, shh, it's okay. It's okay. She had to teach him what was safe to touch and what would burn him. What he could put in his mouth and what he couldn't. Just like any toddler, he didn't come with a special set of God skills. Rolling off full sentences on day one. That all had to be taught. And who was his teacher? It'd be Mary. This unique vocation of this little girl. And never is getting out from under the shadow of scandal that would have surrounded her in the little village of Nazareth. That she got pregnant by the sort of mystery of God's presence. She would have lived with that sort of rumor of something illegitimate her whole life. And this is all what she's saying yes to. Unique calling of this. I teach a class, I just finished up Tuesday night. I teach it every semester or every fall and have done it for 13 years at Ambrose. And it's on formation and what it is to be, a Christ follower and what it is to be called. And so I do a lot about calling. And I love to do this exercise with students. If we had more time, I'd do it. I'd do the exercise and I'd just describe it to you. And what I do is I pick a bunch of people from the Bible who we have the story of how they got called by God. You have Abraham's story, Moses' story, Samuel's story, Joseph's story. There's a whole bunch of these stories throughout the scripture of Paul's story, etc. And I take them and I divvy them up and I'd say, you three, you look at Moses. And you two, you look at Abraham or whatever. And I give you, there's only two things you're looking at or for in the story. The first is, what is almost universal in these stories? In other words, as you look at them, you can say, yeah, that's kind of how calling usually works for most people. When I had a sense of call, that was kind of how it was like for me. When Moses was called, one of the things he says is, you got the wrong guy. Most people have that kind of, like, are you kidding, God? You've got the wrong guy. I don't have the kind of abilities that would, qualify me for this. You've got the wrong guy. My brother's pretty cool. You talk to him. That's a almost universal kind of aspect of call. And then I asked them the second question, what is utterly unique? Like, it only happened for them. Don't go looking for it in your own life. And so I assign out these things and they go through. And the first round, it's pretty easy. It comes pretty fast. We can identify fairly quickly in any of those stories what is almost universal. this sense of Moses that he has again of inadequacy, or Paul having this abrupt encounter with Jesus on the road to Damascus. A lot of people will say, yeah, it's sort of like suddenly he got my attention. I was just doing my thing. I was going in this direction, and God on this night on December 20, what's the night tonight? 5th, 4th, not December 4th. It got my attention. It got my full attention. It's like, yes, God, what? So a lot of people can find that, but then they say, well, what is the utterly unique thing in each story? And they might say, for Moses, well, who gets a burning bush that doesn't stop burning? That's a one-off. Or for Paul, like, who besides Paul got struck blind by Jesus as part of their calling? I mean, so they identify that's the first round. And I go, well, go deeper, I say. Go around another time and another time. What emerges as we do that exercise is slowly people start to see that the thing that they thought was utterly unique might be the most universal thing. For instance, the burning bush of Moses. It's this curious thing that he sees, and what draws him to it is the fire burns and yet does not burn out. And I'll tell you what a calling is every time. A fire that never dies in you. It just doesn't die, and you can squelch it, you can run from it, you can say no to it, you can do stupid things to try to bury it. You can get on with your life and other things, but it just never goes out. And I've known people that in their 20s the fire started, and finally in their 50s they said yes. Pay attention to that fire that just doesn't extinguish. And they say, they look at the Paul thing, and they've gone now 3 or 4 times through it, and then suddenly they realize, doesn't Jesus with everybody that he gets hold of kind of do a blinding? Doesn't he have to basically take away the way you look at things and then reorder your sight? Isn't that what Paul himself says in Corinthians, where he says, we no longer look at anyone from a worldly point of view, but we used to? Doesn't that happen for anybody that gets called? They start to see the whole world differently. And it's like they had to kind of get struck blind before. It's a pretty cool story. So the Mary story is one of the ones I sign out. What's the universal element, or nearly universal? God tends to surprise us. He often comes at that moment where we feel utterly unprepared. I'm too young. We have questions. How can this be? Those seem like the universal things. So it's pretty much everybody goes through that. What's the utterly unique thing? And obviously it's the virgin birth. But listen to the language. How will this be, Mary says, and what the God of the universe says is the Spirit will come upon you, and the Almighty will overshadow you. That's how it will be. The Spirit will come upon you, and the Almighty will overshadow you. And the big aha moment when the group that's looking at the Mary story is that every single person who's ever been called felt like this suddenly something from God himself. The Spirit of God was coming on, and this thing overshadowed with the only thing that really kind of took up all your energy, all your attention was God himself was present to you. And God does this thing. Denise Levertov, in a beautiful poem, remarkable American poet, I'm going to read you this poem in totality because she implies that the uniqueness of the Mary story is maybe not so unique. This is called the Annunciation. I think it's up here. We know the scene, the room variously furnished, almost always a lectern, a book, always a tall lily, arrived on solemn grandeur of great wings, the angelic ambassador standing or hovering, whom she acknowledges a guest, but we are told of meek obedience. No one mentions courage. The engendering spirit did not enter her without consent. God waited. She was free to accept or to refuse, choice integral to humanness. Now listen to this. Aren't there annunciations of one sort or another in most lives? Some unwillingly undertake great destinies, enact them in sullen pride, uncomprehending. More often, those moments when roads of light and storm open from darkness in a man or woman are turned away from in dread, in a wave of weakness and despair, and with relief. Ordinary lives continue. God does not smite them, but the gates close. The pathway vanishes. She had been a child who played, ate, slept like any other child, but unlike others, wept only for pity, laughed in joy, not triumph. Compassion and intelligence fused in her, indivisible. Called to a destiny more momentous than any in all of time, she did not quail, only asked a simple, "How can this be?" and gravely, courteously took to heart the angel's reply. The astounding ministry she was offered to bear in her womb infinite weight and lightness, to carry in hidden finite inwardness 9 months of eternity, to contain in slender vase of being the sum of power in narrow flesh, the sum of light, then bring to birth, push out into air a man-child needing, like any other, milk and love, but who was God. This was a moment no one speaks of, when she could still refuse. A breath, unbreathed, spirit suspended, waiting. She did not cry, "I am not worthy," nor "I have not the strength." She did not submit with gritted teeth, raging, coerced, bravest of all humans. Consent illumined her. The room filled with its light, the lily glowed in it, and the iridescent wings. Consent, courage unparalleled, opened her utterly. Let me read this little stanza again. Aren't there annunciations of one sort or another in most lives? Isn't God asking all of us and granting us this unique vocation to bear the Christ? Theotokos. In fact, in some ways, the miracle in me, anyhow, is greater than the one in Mary, because she was a pure woman. She was a girl. It was a virgin birth. God says, "Can I come in?" And the house isn't quite clean. I don't have the innocence. I don't have the purity. I don't have the deep, soul deep, bone deep virtue of Mary. God says to people like me, "Can I come in?" There's a glorious phrase. I wonder if it's up there. I can't remember if I gave it for the thing. It's Colossians chapter 1, verse 19, which is talking about the mystery of Christ among us. And it says this, Colossians, God was pleased to have all his, God's, fullness dwell in him, in Jesus. In other words, God made the decision and says, "I am pleased. It gives me so much pleasure for everything I am as God to dwell in Jesus." But here's what the whole New Testament says. God was pleased to have his fullness dwell in Jesus. And listen. Jesus is pleased to have his fullness dwell in you. Theotokos. He's pleased. What's your name? Yes?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm Jaden.
Jaden?
Yeah.
Pleased, Jaden. He's pleased to have Christ fully dwell in you. So here's another one, another Theotokos. You can say yes or no, but he's pleased. The stunningness of this, the amazement of it, God was pleased to have all his fullness dwell in Christ. And then Christ says, and I am pleased to have all my fullness dwell in you. Are you interested? Sorry, I get weird. It is the move of Christ that he, like God basically says, the Spirit will come upon you and the Almighty will overshadow you. If you wish. If you wish. Nobody's forcing you. That passage of Denise Levertov, Mary could have, there are many annunciations, and a lot of people just turn away. And she says, in fear and in relief, oh gosh, I don't have to carry that. And just go off and live an ordinary life. Or you could be Theotokos. You could be the Christ bearer. And spend the rest of your life figuring out, how do I do this well? Jesus was pleased to bear. There's at least three things. We could find more, but there's at least three areas where Jesus is utterly pleased to dwell. In his church. Did I get Ephesians up there? The Ephesians 2:22? It doesn't matter if I didn't. Right. And in him, you who are being built, Paul's talking to the church of Ephesus, you're being built together to become a dwelling in which God lives by his Spirit. So the whole church is, in a sense, the Christ bearer. This is a cool one that you would probably be familiar with. One of the places that Jesus is pleased to dwell is in people that you are least likely to recognize him in. Matthew 25, do we have that? I was hungry and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger and you invited me in. I needed clothes and you clothed me. I was sick and you looked after me. I was in prison. And you came to visit me. Then the righteous will answer him, Lord, when? When did we do this? When did we feed you? The king will reply, truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of my brothers and sisters, you did for me. I was pleased to dwell among those that you were least likely. Even the righteous don't know that was Jesus. But he was pleased to dwell. And then the one that I want to just bring home tonight, I don't have much more to say, but he's pleased to dwell in you. John, is it John? Yeah, John 14:23. Jesus replied, anyone who loves me will obey my teaching. My Father will love them, and we will come to them and make our home in them. I'm pleased to dwell. Can I come in? Jesus says. Every one of us gets an annunciation. It's just some turn away in fear and relief and get on with life. And then some of us tremblingly say, may it be to me as the Lord has spoken. I have no idea what's going on. I have no idea what this exactly means, but yes, you can come dwell in me. I'm going to have you just take 3 minutes. And I want you to think about the implications of this if Christ dwells in you. Paul says, Christ in you, the hope of glory. It's an in-ness. What it actually means is everything after you say yes to God, you are welcome. You can come in. I will be a Theotokos. Everything after that's an inside job. In other words, you're not striving to be holy. You're opening yourself to the God who's already in you. There's a beautiful phrase by Augustine. This one's in Latin. St. Augustine. Interior intemio meo, which means you are in me, God, deeper than I am in me. You ever felt like you don't even know who you are? Does anyone totally know who they are in the room? Anybody figured that out? Have you figured it out? Do you know totally who you are? I mean, it's weird. You live with yourself all day long. May I ask how old you are? 20 years you've been living with yourself and you still haven't figured yourself out? I'm 65 and haven't figured myself out, so I'm not sure we get that one in this life. Interior intimio meo, you are in me deeper than I am in me. God is actually gets you totally because he moved in. And he knows everything about you in ways that you don't even know about you. Everything we do is an inside job then, in the sense we become holy, we even evangelize. I want you to take a moment and just say, if this is true, if God's moved in, what does it mean for my life in terms of schoolwork or conflict or dating or relationships? I want you to sit with this idea. It's one of the most hidden in plain sight things in the New Testament. It's all through it. It's the entire secret of Paul, Christ in him. It's why this little Pharisee Nazi, just wanting to shut everything down, hurt everybody, kill everybody, was willing to give up his whole life for the sake of just people knowing Jesus, because Jesus was in him, and he just kept opening wider to the reality of God in him. He took seriously the Theotokos, not me, but Christ, he would say, in me is doing this thing. Even when he suffered, he said, he had such an identity that he was actually bearing and going through the sufferings of Christ himself. Such an intimacy that this could change everything. It ought to change everything. It's supposed to change everything. It's not. Thank you, Logan, for coming up with this theme and then giving me the privilege of speaking on it. I'm really honored. I want to read one thing and then tell you a little story to close. Something C.S. Lewis wrote, and probably some think it's the greatest sermon ever preached. It's called The Weight of Glory. There are no ordinary people. You have never talked to a mere mortal. Nations, cultures, art, civilizations, these are mortal. And their life is to ours as the life of a gnat. But it is immortals whom we joke with, work with, marry, snub, and exploit. It is a serious thing to live in a society of possible gods and goddesses, to remember that the dullest and most uninteresting person you talk to may one day be a creature which, if you saw it now, you would be strongly tempted to worship, or else a horror and a corruption such as now you meet, if at all, only in a nightmare. All day long you are, in some degree, helping each other to one or the other of these destinations. It is in the light of these overwhelming possibilities, with the awe and circumspection proper to them, that we should conduct all our dealings with one another, all our friendships, all our love, all our play, and all our politics. There's no ordinary people in the room. There's a bunch of Theotokos or potential Theotokos. There's a priest in the late Imperial Russia in a city called Kronstadt. It's called John of Kronstadt, or Father John Sergiev. He's a complicated man. Not everything about him is lovable. But Sergiev had a profound love for people on the margins. Profound love. He's sort of patron. He was sainted later by the church in the 60s, and he's patron of the poor. Just had a love. And this is in the waning days of the Tsardom. He lived through Sergeyev, the Russian Revolution. That's kind of finally the corruption within Imperial Russia sort of led to. But Sergeyev would every morning get up, put on his big black cassock, and go out to the worst parts of the city of Kronstadt. And he'd find the people in the worst possible shape, people who were had given up, they're just despairing. It often turned to lives of crime or prostitution or just, dissipation, drunkenness or whatever. He would go all through the streets and lavish Christ's love on them. But he would do this thing where he'd find somebody that was fallen down in the street. They had a terrible hangover, they're drunk or whatever, or he'd find prostitutes who were in terrible poverty, that they couldn't work themselves out of that, and yet they were doing this job that no little girl dreams of ever doing. And he had this habit when he would find somebody that was just at the end of their tether, and he would gently cup their face in his big, he was quite large, in his big hands, and he would look them directly in the eye and he would say, "This is beneath your dignity, because you were created to house the glory of the living God." And everywhere he went, revival followed. Because he got it. He got that. That Jesus is pleased to dwell in you. So I'm going to close now, hand it to Logan, but if you want to talk to one of us tonight and you've never said yes, the Lord is pleased to dwell in you. And anything less than that is beneath your dignity. Just is. And if you have said yes, but it's just kind of like, I don't even... And you just say, I want to take it serious now. I'm a Theotokos. I want to surrender my life to this beautiful, strange vocation. I would love to talk with you as well. Thanks for listening.
Thank you so much for listening to the Convergence podcast. We hope that this message has encouraged you and also challenged you to be more open to God. And above all, we hope that you've been reminded that God is pleased to dwell within you. We'll see you guys in the new year. Merry Christmas.